Today I'm in one of the famous bird hides near Gengrajan National Park. This is Lung Sin's hide. It was established many years ago and the wildlife has become accustomed to it. Lung Sin provides food every day, and also there is a pool of water available for animals to come and drink and bathe. Khalij pheasants are a regular visitor to this hide. Absolutely gorgeous. Plenty of red jungle fowl here as well. One of the great features about these hides is that even if there's not much in front of you, there are beautiful sounds around you in the woodland surrounding the area. I love that little shake of the wings there that the male does. I assume it's some kind of display, although he didn't seem to be directing it at anyone in particular. And I saw it several times during the day. Here we have a grey-bellied squirrel and a northern tree shrew, obviously enjoying the jackfruit that Lung Sin has put out today. One of the species frequently seen here is green-legged partridge, also known as scaly-breasted partridge. The Khalij pheasants came to the clearing several times during the day. She is just gorgeous, isn't she? She seems a little bit more cautious on this visit. Looking like a gold and silver statue. Quite phenomenal. The real animal, of course, infinitely more valuable. I love that little move from the green-legged partridge when they have a bit of a surprise. as though preparing to crouch on the ground with the wing out a little bit. Saw it do that many times if there was a bit of a noise, like a branch falling from a tree. Here we see the male red jungle fowl, wild ancestor to all the hapless domestic chickens that are so badly treated in farms all over the world. And quite a contrast in size here between the grey-bellied squirrel and this little Himalayan striped squirrel. And then the emerald dove steals the show. There he goes again. Isn't that gorgeous? That noise you just heard was a gecko, such as you might find in a house here in Thailand. Clearly there's one somewhere in the hide with me. When I was a child living in Singapore, we used to call them chit-chats because of that chit-chat kind of sound. Streak-eared bulbul coming in for this piece of jackfruit. I don't know what it's doing up here on the tree. Whether one of the squirrels carried it up there or if Lung Sin put it there when he was putting out the food earlier. This is a very common bird that will frequently nest in people's gardens. Replaced by the much larger, greater necklaced laughing thrush. You can hear a lot of noise coming from the trees and bushes. There is some wind today, but also there are many squirrels moving around, and it's quite surprising how often they cause little stems and branches to fall down. The English name grey-bellied squirrel I don't find particularly useful with this species. The Thai name is much more appropriate, which would translate as black tail-tipped squirrel. กระรอกปลายหางดำ Wonderful birds calling there from the forest. I believe that's laughing thrush. If I'm wrong, somebody please leave a comment below. Here's the lesser necklaced laughing thrush. And again we see that black tip on the tail of the squirrel. And on the left there, the greater necklaced laughing thrush. You can see it has the full black moustache there, leaving a white patch behind the eye with some little striations in it. This is a Himalayan striped squirrel again. Many of these always throughout the day feeding here. Also known as the Western or Burmese striped squirrel. Just another example of why it's so important to use the binomial name to identify these animals. And here's the lesser necklaced laughing thrush. It doesn't have the black line below the eye, as you can see. I have some land in Kanchanaburi province where I've planted many trees to try to encourage wildlife, and clearly I'm going to need to plant some more jackfruit trees. The noise you just heard there is an alarm call from one of the squirrels. They do that a lot, and it would seem that most other animals don't actually take much notice of it. Perhaps they've overdone it. But here you see the life of an animal in the wild. Every time its head goes down to feed or to drink, it's straight up again to have a good look around. I've seen goshawks here, and there must be other predators as well that would come down and take a squirrel or one of these birds if it can. Here we see the greater necklaced laughing thrush, also always down feeding, and then one eye at least up onto the treetops or up to the sky. Here again, the lesser necklaced laughing thrush. A little bit smaller than the greater, about 10% smaller in body size. I love the eyes on these birds. They just appear so alert and intelligent. And how is that for the glossy beauty of a black drongo? Once again, the green-legged partridge. They came and went many times during the day, but rarely stayed more than a minute or two. I love this upside down feeding method here with this grey-bellied squirrel. This one has a tick in its ear. Not something that's very attractive, but it is, of course, part of nature in its own way. And really nice to get such a close-up view of this northern tree shrew. And then, out of nowhere, the super skulker, large scimitar babbler. These birds hardly stay for more than a few seconds. Into the water twice only, and then off. Well, as you can see, I filmed the Kalich pheasants quite a lot today. It's really difficult not to film them when they show up. At last, a lesser mouse deer. One of the truly astonishing animals in the forests here in Thailand. Just 20 to 23 centimeters tall at the shoulder and 40 to 55 centimeters long from snout to tail. As you can see, it's trying to crack open the seeds of the jackfruit. And these seeds are highly nutritious, in fact. And you will also be able to notice those elongated canines in the upper jaw. Now, I haven't been able to find information directly on this species, but the very closely related Javan mouse deer has the same feature and only found in the males. So I'm assuming that this also means that this individual is a male. I've read that these mouse deer can breed at any time of the year, and it is now my dream to come across a female with a young mouse deer in tow. Wouldn't that just be an extraordinary sight? The babies must be absolutely minuscule. As we see here, the mouse deer will also eat the fleshy part of the jackfruit. And we can also see those elongated canines. And then in the afternoon, some smaller bird species started to come to drink and bathe. This is a female Indo-Chinese blue flycatcher. There are several species of these blue flycatcher, and they're quite difficult to tell apart. She's really having a proper bath. It's very interesting watching some of these smaller birds, the different habits that they have. Some will just fly into the water, basically dive bomb it and straight off again. Very nervous, but she's right in there having a good soak. Again, we see the interesting feeding style of the grey-bellied squirrel. This is a different individual. Either that or the tick has fallen off since we saw it earlier on. This little chick almost got rucked out of the way there. Wonderful to see this. Red jungle fowl, of course. She will have laid many more eggs than 2. I would imagine a chick's life here in the forest is fraught with danger, but very nice that at least she still has 2 with her. This is either another individual or the same one that has come back for another turn. It hasn't been soaking in the bath all that time. Once again, the lesser necklaced laughing thrush, as I said, doesn't have the black moustache below the eye. And look at that, the way it's using its beak to break up these pieces of corn to make them more manageable. Fascinating how the 2 species of laughing thrush will turn up here together and perfectly tolerant of one another, feeding together. And then this beautiful little bird. That call announcing its presence, but just came in, dived into the water twice and was off. I think this is the Indo-Chinese blue flycatcher. With a little bit of colour there below the beak, but I'm not 100% sure. It's very similar to the Chinese blue flycatcher. Again, if anyone has some observations on that, please leave a comment below. This is the male of whichever species it is. I was very interested to see how cautious these white-rumped shamas are when they come down to the ground. Here's the male now. We saw the female before. This is a bird that will become quite accustomed to people, and I've known individuals that would come very close to me in gardens, etc. But here they're much more nervous. And look at this delightful little bird with that crown there. Absolutely wonderful. This is the male black-naped monarch. And here is the female. These monarchs just took it in turns to dive bomb down into the water and then back onto their perch. Mouse deer are not deer at all, and they're not even closely related to deer. They are actually more closely related to hippopotamuses, pigs, and even whales than they are to deer. With that in mind, I wonder what I would even call a baby of this species. Certainly wouldn't be a calf or a fawn, I don't suppose. Or perhaps they would be called fawns because of the superficial similarity to deer. As the afternoon wore on, several different kinds of smaller birds turned up. I've never been sure of the identity of these ones before, but I now know they're brown-cheeked fulvetters. And again, if anyone can let me know what that call is in the background there, I'd love to have a comment below. These brown-cheeked fulvetters always seem to turn up in a small group right towards the end of the afternoon. And something different here. A female Siberian blue robin. I have seen males here, but today I didn't manage to get any film of one. Now, we think this is a Chinese blue flycatcher because of that little bit of colour above the orange breast below the beak. The orange breast doesn't seem to go all the way up to the beak. Look how nervous this little bird is. I've known puff-throated babblers before from people's gardens where they were really quite accustomed to having people close by and didn't seem afraid of anything very much. But here, they are clearly aware that there are predators about and they need to be very, very cautious. Again, these babblers tend to come in a small group towards the end of the day as the light is fading. And then the last visitor that I was able to see before the light failed altogether, an Abbott's babbler.